Millionaire discovers his wife's shocking mistreatment of Maid's daughter, his life-changing decision. Jack Taylor sat in his plush office, sunlight streaming through the large windows, gilding the wood accents of his extravagant Connecticut home. His sleek laptop hummed, brimming with numbers that spun a narrative of success. Yet Jack felt a cold weight in his chest. Across town, people struggled. Their hardships loomed like shadows on his perfectly manicured lawn. But today, something was about to shatter the illusion. A sharp knock pierced his thoughts. Rosie, their devoted maid, stood in the doorway, her worn hands trembling. Her usually tranquil demeanor was replaced by urgency, panic swirling in her white eyes. "Mr. Taylor," she explained, voice laced with despair. It's Maria. The kids at school, they've been so cruel to her. They tease her for not having new clothes, and for where we live." Jack's heart lurched. He could picture the weight of those taunts, and the implications of a child's rejection, hitting Maria with the force of a freight train. The bitter truth unraveled inside him like a tightly wound spring. They lived in a bubble, disconnected from the struggles of those around them. Meanwhile, Lisa breezed into the room, exuding an air of superiority. "Oh, give it a rest, Rosa. Kids can be mean anywhere. If Maria had better clothes, the problems would go away," she remarked, brushing aside the plight with a haughty wave, a smirk barely visible as she tucked her hair behind her ear. The tension escalated. Jack felt a storm brewing within him, loyalty clashing with moral integrity. "Lisa, that's not how it works. We can't just ignore this," he argued, his voice cracking with urgency. The unease deepened, grappling with his conscience. Standing aside felt like complicity. That chilly afternoon spiraled into chaos. Jack saw Rosa's heartache reflected in his own, and they could only stand in the eye of their societal divisions. If he didn't act, who would? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Driven by determination, Jack organized a community event to raise funds for struggling families. A place for connection, he envisioned it as a beacon of hope. But soon, it unleashed a torrent of dissent amid his neighbors. Long conversations shifted into heated arguments, spiraling into a whirlwind of judgment and prejudice. Friends he'd shared barbecues with turned against him, spewing words that felt like knives. Jack stood at the center of this storm, heart pounding as he prepared to unveil the truth behind Maria's suffering. He could practically feel the collective breath of the crowd. "Maria deserves better," he shouted, voice shaky but resolute. Silence engulfed the gathering like mist. Their eyes turned toward him, a moment of reckoning glistening in the air. In that stark silence, he recognized a shift. Beneath the surface of discomfort lay the essence of humanity and empathy. But could his family find common ground amid this upheaval? The weight of uncertainty pressed against Jack's chest as he realized life in their suburb would still remain blissfully ignorant without change. As he processed this truth, the question lingered painfully. Would he lean into this moment of solidarity, standing proudly for what was right, or would the bonds of family hold stronger than the promise of justice? The battle within had only begun. Jack stood there, the silence hanging thick like fog. He felt each heartbeat reverberate in his chest, a reminder of everything he had risked. The faces in the crowd wore expressions ranging from confusion to disdain. The warmth of his prior life felt like a distant memory now, overshadowed by the weight of Maria's circumstance. A murmur bubbled up, voices cascading into one another. Some whispered support, while others muttered disapproval. Jack turned to Rosie, her eyes shimmering with hope. She had invested her life into this family, and now it felt as if the world was on the brink of change. But would it be enough? Lisa's sharp voice broke his thoughts. Really, Jack? You're going to embarrass us in front of the whole neighborhood for a maid's daughter? What will they think? What will Sarah and Danny say? The anger in her voice clashed against his resolve, but Jack was done being afraid of opinions that didn't align with decency. Is that all you care about? He shot back, a flush creeping up his neck. The sputtering of dissent simmered, and for a fleeting moment, all eyes turned to him. I care about our community, he continued, his voice lifting in defiance. I care about the values we pretend to uphold, while turning a blind eye to suffering right under our noses. Each word felt like a hammer striking iron. If we don't stand up for those who need it, we're as guilty as those that hurt them. Jack, you'll ruin us. Lisa's voice wobbled. But as the last word hung in the air, the tension shifted. Several neighbors shifted uneasily, faces softened, just a touch. What do you propose, then? An older gentleman finally called from the back of the crowd, skepticism etched across his brow. Throw a charity gala and pretend everything will be fine. We start small, Jack replied, the fire in his belly igniting a different kind of passion. Let us offer clothes for the kids, school supplies, create mentorship programs. And what us next? Lisa couldn't help it, her voice rising again. Are you going to invite them to dinner? What is wrong with that? Jack couldn't hold back. The disdain in her tone stung in a way he hadn't expected. They're people, Lisa. They're our neighbors. They have dreams just like us. Have you ever taken the time to listen? Silence once again took hold, but frustration vibrated just beneath the surface. Eyes darted, faces hardened. He could feel the tension building, ready to boil over. The truth is, we've been selfish. It was a simple statement, but it hung there like a thick veil of realization. We have to do better for this community. For Maria. His heart raced. Could he change hearts, even in his own family? One person in the crowd finally stepped forward, a neighbor who had been quietly listening. Maybe we can start with a clothing drive. I have some things that don't fit anymore. Suddenly, ideas surged like a wave. Others began nodding, murmurs of agreement rising as more voices joined in. Jack's hopes swelled, filling up the cracks left by hesitation and fear. Maybe they could change this narrative together. But just as a sense of triumph began to wash over him, Lisa stepped back, arms crossed, her face a mask of disbelief. You honestly think this will change anything, don't you? Her tone cut through the air like ice. Something has to change. Jack shouted back, feeling that familiar weight of uncertainty press against his chest again. And in that moment, taut with challenge and hope, he understood the battle was far from over. A storm of conflict brewed at home and in the community. This was just the beginning. As those words echoed in his mind, he couldn't help but imagine the ripple of hope spreading among them now. But the challenge of coming home to Lisa loomed larger than any newfound promise. Would their love survive this moral reckoning? The air stirred with tension as he thought of what tomorrow would bring. Would the spark he had ignited grow, or would it flicker out under the weight of familial loyalty? As Jack stood surrounded by the crowd, the echoes of his words hung heavy in the air. He felt worn, the weight of their stares pressing down like chains. In that moment, he was both the change-maker and the outcast, and it dawned on him that his resolve would be tested in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The murmurs swelled, a cacophony of opinions mingling with a hint of something new, hope. His neighbor, Mark, stepped forward again, a wiry grin breaking through the tension. I can organize the clothing drive, he said, his voice steadier now. Let us see what we can gather. Jack felt a flicker ignite within him. Maybe they could turn the tide, but guilt washed over him swiftly. He knew this would soften Lisa. She lingered at the edge, a storm brewing behind her facade of calm. "Just think about it," another neighbor spoke up, her voice compassionate yet cautious. "What if this isn't just a one-time thing? What if we can keep this going?" "That's the spirit," Jack replied, grateful for the unexpected swell of support around him. "Let us make this a weekly thing. We can hold community events to fundraise, get everyone involved." A ripple of agreement broke through the crowd, sparking chatter with renewed purpose. But as the enthusiasm grew, Lisa's silence screamed for attention. Her lips thinned into a line, disbelief flashing across her features. Jack's heart sank a little more. It hurt seeing her try to stifle her anger, as if everyone else's support was another dagger in her heart. "I see what you're doing," she finally said, her words sharp and deliberate. "This is about you feeling good about yourself, isn't it? Saving the day. But at what cost?" "Lisa, it's not about me," he replied, frustration seeping into his voice. "It's about helping those who have been pushed aside. You know that?" "Maybe so," she snapped back, arms still crossed defiantly. "But you can't just shove things into people's lives and think everything will magically be better." Jack opened his mouth to argue, but instead, a deep silence ensued. He could sense the tension shifting once more, uncertainty pulling at the edges of their conversation. What Lisa didn't realize was, pushing for this change felt like fighting for their future. Stepping closer, Jack lowered his voice. "If we don't change who we are, we're teaching Sarah and Danny it's okay to look the other way. You wouldn't want that for them, would you?" Her steely demeanor faltered. He saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, a chink in her armor. "What if all this fails? What if it doesn't make a difference? What if—" "Then we try again," he insisted, his voice softening. "At least we tried." For a heartbeat, their eyes locked. It was an invitation, an unspoken pledge that maybe, just maybe, they were still standing on the same ground. The crowd began to disperse, infused with a renewed sense of purpose. Jack watched them go, a sense of fragile victory threading through him. But Lisa remained rooted, frustration mingling with fear. "What do you think will happen next?" she asked, almost a whisper. "I think we've just begun," he said, turning toward the house, steeling himself for the next battle. "But those next steps," he paused, glancing back, "they may be tougher than we thought." As the night crept in, dark clouds gathered above, echoing the turmoil within their family. Jack wondered if they could ever find common ground amidst their differences. Would the walls they built crack under the weight of a cause larger than themselves? Tomorrow was a new day, but would it bring resolution, or would they drift farther apart, caught in the riptide of their conflicting desires? Jack awoke the next morning to the sound of raindrops pattering against the windowpanes. The gray sky felt heavy and weighed down with unspoken tensions. He rolled over to find Lisa already up, staring out at the damp world beyond. Her expression was tight, a mix of worry and resolve that he couldn't quite decipher. "Morning," he said softly, attempting to bridge the distance that had grown between them since last night. "Morning," she replied, her voice steady but distant. She didn't turn to face him, still lost in her thoughts. As he joined her by the window, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that their conversation from yesterday lingered like the rain looming overhead. "Did you sleep okay?" he ventured, searching for any sign that the walls around her heart might be loosening. "Better than I expected," Lisa replied shortly, but there was no warmth in her words. Jack sighed, frustrated. He knew she had deep concerns about their plan, and he wanted her faith more than anything. "Look, I know you think this is all just about me and my guilt," he began cautiously, hoping she'd open up. "But it's really not. I want our family to make a difference." Finally, she turned to him, her eyes glistening with something more than anger. "You think I don't want that too?" It scares me, Jack. We're taking on something huge. What if it falls apart? What if we fail? Then we pick ourselves up and try again, he asserted, emboldened by the potential for their shared purpose. Lisa's face softened just a bit. But what if we're just pulling everyone along, like puppets on strings? Are we really helping, or just doing our part to look good? Jack felt that old familiar pang of guilt again. It twisted in his stomach. He hadn't thought of it that way. You mean what if we're not doing it for the right reasons? Exactly, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Are we just fixing what feels broken in ourselves by trying to fix others? The question hung between them, heavy and burdensome. Jack's heart raced as he contemplated the implications. He had wanted this to be about action, about connection. But what if they hadn't considered the emotional toll it would take on those involved? No one is perfect, Lisa. We can't solve everything. But we can start somewhere. He paused, glancing out at the drenched streets, where the community would gather in less than a week. And it may not be about fixing, but showing up, being there. That's gotta count for something. Lisa crossed her arms, contemplating his words, and for a moment, their world felt like it held its breath. Jack, I just don't want to hurt anyone more than they already are, she finally confessed. Neither do I, he said, reaching for her hand. But we can't let fear control us. If we don't step forward, we might lose what we could be together. They stood there, hands entwined, the pattering rain echoing their emotions. The connection, they found, felt real and necessary. But as Jack gazed at her, he couldn't shake the memory of the crowd's mixed reactions. Would they be welcomed? Would the efforts pay off? Or would they face backlash that would leave them both reeling? Do you think the kids will understand? Lisa asked softly, drawing Jack out from his thoughts. Understanding comes with time, he replied, confidence surging through him. We'll guide them together. In that moment, he realized they were at a crossroads, where decisions would shape their family's core. But as he watched the raindrops trickle down the glass, he could sense the unease building again. What lay ahead would test them in ways they had yet to comprehend. What would their first event reveal about not just the community, but their own truths? And more pressing, would their family emerge stronger, or would the scars deepen? The rain continued to fall, creating a rhythmic drumming that echoed the pounding of Jack's heart. Both he and Lisa stood quietly, lost in their thoughts. The doubts that wrapped around them were as heavy as the clouds above, and Jack wished he could snatch them away, if only to bring back the lightness they once had. Maybe we could reach out to someone who has been involved in this kind of work before, Lisa suggested, her voice barely a whisper, as though voicing thoughts that had startled her. They might have insights we haven't considered. That's a great idea. Jack felt his interest peaking. Someone who knows what they're doing could help us avoid pitfalls. Lisa's brow furrowed slightly. But is it just about avoiding pain? Or can we honestly learn? That's what I still don't know. The tension slipped back into the air, thickening like the fog wrapping around the trees outside. Jack squeezed her hand tighter, trying to anchor them both. What if we asked people to share their experiences? Maybe we could help tell their stories. That's a start, isn't it? She glanced at him, hope flickering like candlelight. Maybe. Can you feel it, though? The real hope in this? Jack asked, genuinely curious about what lay beneath her hesitations. This is a chance to build bridges instead of walls. Or to risk losing ourselves in the process, she countered, the fire in her voice reigniting. There is also that risk. Jack nodded, understanding the complexity of her fears. You're right. We need to really think this through, to talk to the kids about it, and prepare them too. It's not just about us. Exactly. Lisa seemed to relax, and Jack sensed they were slowly beginning to step out from under the weight of uncertainty. Let us meet with them tonight. Share our fears and excitement. See how they feel. Good idea. He felt lighter already, as if the rain was washing away some of what had been weighing on them. Later that evening, gathered around their kitchen table, the children arrived with their usual noise, laughter intertwining with the smell of fresh cookies that Lisa had baked. Jack watched their smiling faces, warmth spreading through his chest. "Mama, are we having a family meeting? Can we talk about that big event?" Charlie, their oldest, asked, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Yes, buddy, we are," Jack said. "But first, I want you all to tell me what you think about helping our community." The table quieted for a moment. Ruby, the youngest, tilted her head. "Will it be scary?" Jack felt a flicker of concern. It would likely be a challenge. "It might be at times, but we can be brave together." He glanced at Lisa, who nodded, her eyes encouraging him to continue. "Remember the time we visited the animal shelter?" he prompted. "Wasn't he that scary at first? But once we started meeting the animals, playing with them, it felt good, didn't it?" "It did," Charlie said excitedly. "And we made friends there." "Exactly." Jack grinned. "This event is kind of like that. It's about making friends, creating connections. We might feel scared or unsure at first, but we have so much room in our hearts to help others." The kids looked at each other, slowly warming to the idea. Lisa's smile widened. In that moment, Jack felt a surge of optimism. Maybe they were on the right path after all. An hour passed, filled with laughter and shared ideas. Yet as the excitement built, an unease settled in the pit of Jack's stomach. He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay ahead wouldn't just challenge them as a family. It would force them to confront their very identities. "You know," Lisa said thoughtfully as the kids giggled, "I think we should invite others from the community to share their experiences with us before the event. That could open up important conversations." "Brilliant," Jack exclaimed, but deep down his heart raced at the thought of hearing stories that could shake their very foundations. What truths would emerge? What realities awaited them? As the kids squealed and debated ideas, Jack exchanged a glance with Lisa, their unspoken fears intertwining with hope. They all had much to learn, but he couldn't help but wonder, would they emerge stronger? Or would this journey unravel the threads that held them together? As night fell and the shadows in their home deepened, one thought lingered in Jack's mind. Was this just the beginning, or was the storm about to break in ways they couldn't predict? The next morning, the sun struggled to break through the remnants of last night's storm. Jack brewed coffee, the rich aroma enveloping him like a warm hug. He sat at the kitchen table, still feeling the weight of the conversation from the night before. The house was quiet, peaceful even, and he relished the stillness, knowing it wouldn't last long. Lisa shuffled in, her hair tousled, and a sleepy smile graced her face. "Morning," she mumbled, pouring herself a cup. "Morning. I've been thinking about our plan," Jack said, trying to keep his voice casual. "What if we made a list of people to invite? Really reach out to the community?" Lisa nodded, her enthusiasm gradually surfacing. "That sounds good. Maybe we can start with the local charities. They have stories worth sharing." As they tossed around ideas, Jack felt a flicker of hope. It was a practical step, grounding them in actionable tasks. Just then, the familiar sound of small feet thundered down the hallway like an approaching storm. The kids burst into the kitchen, loud and bright, quickly filling the air with chatter about their plans for the day. "Are we still doing the community event?" Charlie asked, his eyes wide with excitement. "Yes," Jack affirmed. "We want to hear from others, maybe get more ideas." But deep inside him, a seed of dread grew. Not everyone would have uplifting stories. What if they heard about pain and suffering, trauma that was hard to digest? Charlie and Ruby were still young, and Jack wondered if they could handle the gravity of what they might learn. "Mom, can I help with the planning?" Ruby chirped, her voice sweet as honey. Of course, sweetie, Lisa replied, ruffling Ruby's hair. Jack stared at them, patterns of laughter and warmth skimming the surface of a deeper current of anxiety. The image of what was to come rested heavily on his mind. During breakfast, Lisa's phone buzzed. She picked it up, brows furrowed as she read the message. Jack noticed the shift in her demeanor, a flash of something fleeting but serious. "What's wrong?" Jack asked, concern lacing his tone. "It's just, there's an old friend reaching out. They want to catch up." Jack could see her hesitation. "You haven't talked in ages. Is everything okay?" Yeah. Just we weren't on the best terms," she replied, avoiding his gaze. Jack wanted to press further, but the kids were too present, their joy radiating, blissfully unaware of the complexities around them. After breakfast, they gathered supplies for the event and began brainstorming ways to create an inviting atmosphere. Laughter erupted frequently, the room energized by the children's innocent ideas. Jack thought they were making progress, but as he caught Lisa's eye over a stack of flyers, he saw shadows still lurking beneath her cheerful facade. The day drifted into a blur of activity, filled with planning and discussing logistics. Just as they were wrapping up, a text flashed on Lisa's phone again, causing her to stiffen. "Is everything okay?" Jack asked, his voice low, careful not to disrupt the kids' moment of bliss. "It's just she's asking if she can join us for lunch," Lisa replied quietly. Jack felt the tension rising. "Who?" "Isabel, an old friend from high school," she said, her eyes darting away from his. Just then, Ruby clambered into Jack's lap, pulling him back into the warmth of family chaos. "Can we have ice cream for dessert?" Ruby lobbied, her big eyes twinkling. Jack chuckled, surprised at how quickly she steered attention away from the brewing storm of an incoming conversation. "Sure, why not? Ice cream it is." He looked to Lisa, who managed a weak smile, but he knew the real answer lay hidden in her heart. As they finished their preparations, Jack couldn't escape the feeling that today was more than just planning an event. It was a catalyst, one that could force all of them to confront not only their community's truths, but their own lives too. Even as laughter filled the air, he felt the first tremors of a shakeup approaching. Was he ready to unravel the layers of both the past and the present? Would the opportunity to share their experience serve to strengthen their bonds, or would it expose fractures they weren't prepared to face? Just before falling into bed that night, Jack looked at Lisa, her expression puzzled as if she were immersing herself in thought. "You okay?" he asked softly. "Just thinking about lunch tomorrow," she responded, her voice distant. With a sigh, Jack turned off the light, aware that certain conversations wouldn't be easily sealed away. Tomorrow, when they faced the realities of their choices, would they emerge unscathed, or would the echoes of what was to come shatter their fragile peace? The next day dawned with a bright sky, as if the universe was trying to lift the weight that hung over Jack and Lisa's household. The kitchen buzzed with activity. Charlie and Ruby were busy crafting signs for the community event, their laughter echoing around the room. Jack felt grateful for their innocence, but he couldn't shake the tension coiling tighter in his gut as Lisa moved about, her thoughts clearly elsewhere. "Hey, ready to tackle this together?" he asked, his voice laced with encouragement. "Of course." She forced a smile, but Jack sensed the cracks in her facade growing wider. He wanted to melt away her worries, but felt like he was navigating a minefield of emotions. Just before noon, as they set the table for the lunch with Isabel, Jack couldn't help but feel the uneasiness build. The children babbled about ice cream and games, oblivious to the gravity of the moment. Lisa was meticulous with the details, checking the plates and rearranging the chairs. "Do you need help?" Jack offered, but she waved him off, focused on her self-assigned duties, as if they were a distraction from what loomed ahead. With a knock at the door, Lisa jolted. Jack caught the flash of panic in her eyes, quickly masked behind a deep breath. "That must be her," Lisa murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Jack asked, genuinely concerned. "We can always reschedule." She straightened her back, pulling herself into a semblance of composure. "No, I need to face this." He nodded, a mix of pride and fear battling inside him. He had learned long ago that part of love was standing shoulder to shoulder even when the ground beneath threatened to crumble. As Lisa opened the door, Jack could barely make out the silhouette of Isabel, backlit by the sun. The years draped over them differently. Isabel looked nervous, while Lisa's expression was clouded with uncertainty. "Hey," Isabel said softly, her eyes darting around the room. "Hi," Lisa replied, a thread of tension woven into her voice. Jack stepped into the hallway, introducing himself. He offered a handshake, but the air was thick, each moment stretching like taffy. Isabel took it, but her grip was uncertain, as if she were afraid of the weight of rehashing the past. As they moved to the dining room, Jack felt the atmosphere shift. The weight of unspoken words floated above them, like a storm ready to unleash. Ruby came charging in, oblivious to the tensions, and immediately tugged on Isabel's skirt. "Want to help decorate our signs?" she asked, her enthusiasm like a ray of light cutting through a cloud. "Yes, I'd love to," Isabel replied, revealing a smile that seemed like a tiny victory against the backdrop of her nerves. While the kids began to craft, Jack and Lisa hovered at the edge of the chaos. "You're doing great," he whispered, offering her a reassuring nod. But while the children cut and glued glitter, conversations remained stunted between the adults. Jack watched as Isabel opened her mouth, then hesitated. Lisa's head turned slightly, an unvoiced question hanging in the air. "Isabel, why now?" Lisa finally asked, her voice trembling slightly. Isabel responded, but her words were lost amid the sounds of giggling children. Jack felt their world narrowing down to the two women, caught in the throes of a conversation that could pull apart or stitch together their fragmented past. With a decisive exhale, Isabel apologized for things left unsaid, each word like a pebble dropped into a deep well of unresolved issues. Jack's heart raced, wondering if they could truly mend the rift or if old wounds would reopen. Just as Isabel delved deeper into their shared history, another knock at the door echoed through the house. More guests? Jack thought, hope mingling with dread. Who could that be? He murmured, his heart thundering. The narrative on the edge of revelation reached its breaking point as Jack prepared to answer the door, knowing that whatever awaited him could shift the path of their lives forever. Would it be a blessing or a curse? As he reached for the handle, he couldn't help but wonder what new secrets would emerge today, and would they be ready to face them? Jack took a steadying breath before opening the door, bracing himself for whatever surprise lay waiting outside. He swung it open, the hinges creaking as if echoing his doubts. On the doorstep stood a tall figure, weathered and worn. It was Andrew, an old friend and a figure from Isabel's past. Jack's stomach dropped. Andrew's expression was grave, his eyes wide. "I heard you were having a gathering. I didn't mean to burst in, but it seemed like something I should." Andrew. Isabel's voice cut through the tension, filled with surprise and concern. She rushed past Jack as if propelled by something stronger than caution. The unease that had settled between Isabel and Lisa teetered dangerously close to falling over the edge. Jack followed, unsure of what to expect. "I didn't want to wait until tomorrow to find you," Andrew insisted, his tone urgent. He glanced between the two women, his gaze lingering on Isabel. "There's something you need to know." Jack shifted his weight, sensing the tension in the room escalate. He exchanged a glance with Lisa, whose face paled as she took in the scene. The energy crackled like static, each unspoken word adding to the wall of unease that had built between them all. "About what?" Isabel asked, her voice trembling, eyes darting to Jack, then back to Andrew. I found something, Andrew replied, taking a step closer, something that involves your past. His presence seemed to pull the room tighter, the air thickening with the weight of uncertainty. Isabel, what is he talking about? Jack interjected, needing to know how deep this rabbit hole went. Isabel's brow furrowed, her words escaping her lips in soft, hesitant whispers. Andrew, I told you, I didn't want to revisit. She trailed off, biting her lower lip. You have to understand, he pressed, there are truths you're unaware of, things that could change everything. Jack felt the room constrict around them, aware of the children softly giggling in the other room, blissfully unaware of the gathering storm. Charlie peeked his head around the corner, curious about the grown-ups, while Ruby continued to manipulate her glitter and glue, intent on her craft. Andrew took a deep breath, gathering his resolve. There's someone who has been looking for you, Isabel. Someone you've been wanting to find. Isabel staggered back a little, her hands gripping the edge of the table for support. No, that can't be right. Believe me, I didn't want to be the messenger, but I have to tell you. Jack's heart raced. What are you saying? Who? What could possibly require this kind of urgency? Your Andrew began but stopped, noticing the fragile emotional landscape surrounding them. Just tell us, Lisa interjected, her frustration boiling over. Whatever it is, just say it. Isabel swayed slightly, her face pale, appearing as if the news had physically knocked the wind out of her. Jack reached for her, but held back, sensing she needed to stand on her own for this. Andrew swallowed hard. It's your mother. She is alive, and she is looking for you. The world slowed to a standstill, the impact of those words hanging in the air like thick fog. Jack exchanged worried glances with Lisa, who seemed frozen in time, her mind racing. Isabel's breath caught, eyes glistening with a mix of shock and something deeper hope? Fear? Jack felt the walls of their carefully constructed reality begin to tremble. What did it all mean? Do you want to find her? He finally asked, his heart pounding in anticipation of her answer. Isabel looked into his eyes, searching for answers he wasn't sure he had. I don't know, she whispered, tears brimming. As the emotional tempest swirled around them, Jack realized the path ahead was uncertain. The root of their troubles might just be waiting in the shadows of Isabel's past, ready to step into the light. It's time to decide, he urged softly. And as the words hung heavy in the space between them, Jack felt a deeper dread settle in. Would they all be prepared for the ramifications of an answer? Outside, the sun continued to shine, unaware of the storm that had just gathered behind their closed door. How could this news change everything? And what would the fallout be? Isabel's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and Jack felt the weight of her gaze, like 1,000 questions hanging in the air. Silence enveloped the room, thick and suffocating. Andrew shifted his stance, seeming to realize the emotional tornado he had unleashed. I wouldn't have come if it wasn't important, Isabel. This could change everything for you, he said, his voice low and steady. But my mother, Isabel whispered, as if saying the words out loud made it somehow more real. I thought she was gone, that she abandoned us. The words settled like stones, heavy and unyielding. Jack watched the turmoil ripple across Isabel's face, a mix of nostalgia and bitter loneliness. He reached out, finally clasping her trembling hand. It was warm, but trembling like a leaf shaken by an unexpected gust of wind. She might have her reasons, he said gently, looking deep into her eyes, hoping to spark something, a glimmer of hope or courage. Maybe she wants to explain. Andrew nodded slowly, but his expression was grave, bearing witness to a truth Isabel had long buried. What is worth fighting for, Isabel? Is it worth finding out why she left? The question echoed in the dim room, and Jack held his breath. every second stretched out like a lifeline, waiting for Isabel's response. "I don't know if I can do that," she replied, her voice cracking. "What if it hurts too much? What if she doesn't want to see me?" Lisa stepped forward, her voice soft yet fierce. "You deserve to know the truth, Isabel. All those unanswered questions, all that pain, you have the chance to face it now." Jack shared a glance with Lisa. They were both there to support Isabel, even if the journey ahead felt daunting. "Imagine," Jack urged, "the possibility of forgiveness, of connection. What if she has been looking for you all this time?" Isabel's eyes darted downward, uncertainty cloaking her heart. The children's laughter echoed faintly from the other room, a stark reminder of innocence and joy. The contrast made Jack's chest ache. "I just don't want to be hurt again," Isabel confessed. Tears slipped down her cheeks, shimmering in the light. "I've already lost so much, how can I risk losing more?" Andrew took a step closer, gaze penetrating. "You have to decide. Are you ready to confront whatever answers may come? Or will you choose to stay in the shadows of your pain?" That choice hung heavy, and Jack felt a tension crackling through him like static electricity. He didn't know if Isabel was ready, but he also sensed that this moment would be pivotal, a fork in the road. "Whatever you decide, I'll be here," Jack promised, squeezing her hand tighter. His heart raced with a mix of fear and hope for their future. Isabel looked up, her eyes searching his face. "If I reach out, and she is not there, I don't know if I can handle that." "Then take it one step at a time," he replied softly. "You don't have to fight alone. We're here together." In that vulnerable moment, something shifted in Isabel's expression. She blinked away tears, her breath steadied. Maybe, just maybe, there was a flicker of resolve kindling. Andrew's voice broke in softly. "I need to tell you more about her. Please, Isabel. Let us talk about the next steps." And as they gathered around the table, minds buzzing with possibilities, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something monumental. Isabel was at a crossroads, and with every word spoken, they moved closer to uncovering the truth. But what other revelations awaited them? And would Isabel have the strength to face her past? As the conversation deepened, Isabel seemed to find her footing. Each word Andrew shared painted a picture of a mother whose choices echoed with pain, the kind that lingered long after the action had taken place. The room fell into a hush, tension simmering like a pot about to boil over. "Your mother reached out after all these years," Andrew continued, his voice steady and calm. "She is not the same person she was. She has regrets, and she wants to explain. She wants to meet, and she is asking for forgiveness." Isabel swallowed hard, the weight of Andrew's words hanging in the air like a thick fog. Jack's heart raced for her. He could feel both hope and fear battling within her, something vital shuddering in the fabric of their shared reality. "I can't believe this," Isabel whispered, her voice cracking as tears flowed freely down her cheeks. The surface of grief had cracked wide open, flooding her with the emotions she had buried for so long. "I thought she was gone forever. I thought I'd never get answers." "Sometimes, what we long for the most is also what scares us the most," Andrew replied. "You're facing a choice between stepping into the unknown or holding on to what has hurt you." Jack watched as Isabel's eyes darted from Andrew to Lisa, and then to him, a swirling mix of uncertainty and courage battling for dominance. At that moment, the distant laughter of Charlie and Ruby floated in from the other room, a stark reminder of innocence in a world that could be so complicated. "Do you want to meet her?" Jack ventured, holding her gaze steady. "This is your chance to reclaim a part of your story." "Or to walk into a storm," Isabel countered, her voice trailing off as the enormity of the situation crashed over her. "Isabel, whatever your choice is, we're with you," Lisa said firmly, stepping in to lend her support. "You don't have to go through this alone." The sincerity in her tone was palpable. Jack felt a swell of warmth, as he looked at Lisa, a new bond forged through the trials they faced together. Isabel nodded slowly, wiping her tears with trembling hands. Maybe I should. I want to hear what she has to say. But as hope began to wash over the moment, a powerful surge of uncertainty rippled through her. What if it all falls apart again? Jack leaned in, eyes soft. Then we'll be there to pick up the pieces. No matter what happens, we face it together. The room embraced the weight of their collective decision, a fragile yet resolute acceptance of whatever lay ahead. In that moment, Andrew smiled gently, pride weaving through his expression. You've taken an important step. I'll help facilitate the meeting, whatever it takes. Days turned into a flurry of emotions as preparations for the meeting evolved. Isabel felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety whirl within her like a summer storm. But she never faced it alone. With each passing day, the support from Jack, Lisa, and even the children grounded her, reminding her of the importance of family, both the one she had and the one she searched for. Finally, the day arrived. Jack felt the tension clinging to the air like dew on the grass in the early morning. They gathered in the kitchen, a sanctuary of love and warmth, to discuss the logistics. Are you ready? He asked Isabel gently. She took a deep breath, lacing her fingers together as she nodded, determination gleaming in her eyes. No matter what happens today, remember this, he continued, you are not defined by your past. You have the power to shape your future. Isabel smiled, a flicker of gratitude igniting her spirit. Thank you, Jack. I honestly wouldn't be here without all of you. As they left for the meeting, tension buzzed in the air, as if the world awaited a revelation. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would shift the very foundation of Isabel's life, but also their family's dynamics. When they arrived at the meeting place, a quaint cafe that felt cozy and inviting, Jack squeezed Isabel's hand. They stepped inside, the smell of coffee and pastries dancing in the air, but nothing could distract from the enormity of what was about to unfold. Isabel's eyes darted around the room, searching. Then, through the open door walked a woman whose features matched Isabel's, but bore the weight of time and regret. Hope and apprehension coiled tightly in Isabel's heart. Mom! Isabel gasped, emotions cascading over her like a wave. At that moment, Jack felt something shift. Isabel's journey to understanding, forgiveness, and love had hit a crescendo. This was the moment she had dreamed of, the reconciliation she so desperately needed. And in that cafe, surrounded by the warmth of community, Jack watched Isabel confront the shadows of her past, realizing that the bonds of family could be reformed even when they seemed irreparably broken. As they embraced tentatively, tears flowing freely, Jack's heart swelled with hope. This was the transformation they all sought, the promise of healing, of understanding, and ultimately, of unconditional love. A few hours later, they returned home, tired but woven together more tightly than before. Isabel felt lighter, a burden lifted. It was a new beginning. Jack turned to Lisa, a smile breaking across his face. We did it. Together. I knew we could, she replied, her eyes sparkling with pride. As they hugged their children, Jack felt the warmth of their family sacred and beautiful. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he knew they were ready. Let us keep this momentum going, he said, determination in his voice. We need to support our community and keep opening our hearts. The journey doesn't end here. They all nodded, a gentle hum of agreement weaving through the air. And in that moment, surrounded by the people he loved most, Jack understood the power of love, connection, and the strength that comes from tackling the hardest truths together. And so, with renewed purpose, their family stepped forward, eyes bright with hope for a future forged in compassion, unity, and understanding. As the sun set, painting the sky with vibrant colors, Jack felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this beautiful path they walked together. And he knew, without a doubt, they would continue to make an impact not just in their lives, but in the lives of those they cared for. Now, dear viewers, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like immediately to feed the algorithm and help us share these important narratives. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters to us. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel. Let's grow this community together.